Today I want to introduce Pete Benson to our pastors and congregations here in the Maritimes. And Pete and I met about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was so impressed, Pete, by your heart for God's work and for the kingdom of God. And recently, you sent me a series of financial videos to help people. And so we want to introduce people to you and to the videos you put together. And so I'd like to ask you to simply tell me, why did you make this video series available?
I mean, the biggest reason is that I have a lot of connections and close friends who are pastors of churches. And as the COVID-19, whole issue started to hit congregations and they started closing down having in-person church, a lot of these pastors began to notice immediately that, one, their people are struggling emotionally, um, health-wise, some of them, and then financially a lot because it affected their income, their work, and so on. So as the people that were part of a certain congregation were affected financially from this whole thing and continue to do so, then they have to start tightening their belt and cutting back and making adjustments. These pastors immediately began to notice a pretty significant drop in giving. And so as they were communicating to me, it began to burden my heart that, hey, this is affecting families, but there's a trickle effect that then affects churches and so on. If ever people needed the church guidance, and that it's now, we talked about, and what could be done. And I said, well, I could throw together some videos of how-to steps, very practical, down to earth, exactly what people can take and apply right now today to adjust to this, ways to find the money so that they can get through it. And whatever, after you give, if you do the right things with what's left and apply these principles, you will have enough to get through this.
I'd like you to share some of your experience in helping people financially, your background, and a little bit of your journey here so people can understand there's some credibility here with what you're sharing.
Absolutely. So my life now, compared to like the first 15 to 20 years that my wife and I were married, is like the exact opposite. So today I own and control a financial planning company in Nashville, Tennessee. We have a television show, a radio show. We produced a lot of books. We manage about $1 billion. We have 4 different offices. So now we help people with money, investing, and all that kind of thing. And God's really blessed us. And that's, everything we own belongs to Him. But it didn't start out that way. My wife and I grew up on Grand Manan Island in New Brunswick. Through some really bad choices that we made as teenagers, we found ourselves not even through grade 11 and already going to be parents. And so we got married between grade 11 and 12, then finished high school. And with the baby in tow, we went to Bethany Bible College when we're 18 years old with no money, no job, no sense other than God's direction, and went to Bethany Bible College, 18 years old in Sussex, New Brunswick. That was the beginning of our journey together, and probably little chance that the marriage would ever last. But this summer we will be celebrating 44 years together, with all thanks to God.
Wow, congratulations.
But Zig Ziglar made a quote one time, and he said, money's not the most important thing in life, but it's reasonably close to oxygen on the gotta have it scale. Well, we had to have it when we got to Sussex, New Brunswick, and there are 3 of us, and we need an apartment, and we got to pay for college, and we literally didn't have any money saved up. There might have been $500 or $800 when we landed there as 18-year-olds. I have the responsibilities of an adult, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to run a household. I knew how to work, but I didn't know how to manage money. And if anyone needed a dollar to stretch, I did. So I started to self-educate. I started reading everything that I could get my hands on in the financial world so I could figure out how do I start a budget? How do I get income coming in? How can I make save expenses? So anyway, we left there and we didn't owe a college bill. It was all paid. And I planted a couple of churches for the Wesleyan Church. One's on Prince Edward Island and one down here in Huntsville, Alabama, because I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. So that's my ministry background. And when you plant churches, um, you're money is not very plentiful. And so in the church, my own family and everything, in the first 15 to 20 years of our life, we really learned how to apply the principles that are in these videos that really work all the time, even though I've named them COVID-19 and your personal finances. These are just good personal finances 101, 102, 103, whatever, for anybody at all times. And so those are the things that I learned. Then I went on to more formal education, and that's what led me into the financial field. Then I realized that, hey, I had all this knowledge, but I needed to get formal certifications, education, schooling, and whatever, because I really felt like what what my journey was all about was now an opportunity to help a lot of people with their finances. And and then we started a Christian company here 25 years ago in Nashville, Tennessee, called Beacon Capital Management. And so you can see that these things were all tested in the first 15 to 20 years of our life when money was very scarce.
I think one of the things that really caught my attention when you sent me these videos was I understood your story. I knew your journey because I'd heard you share it a few times in different situations. And I knew that you understood what it was to be a pastor, a planter, somebody struggling with finances. And what would you say to someone who is 45, 50, 55, and they say, well, it's too late for me. I don't have much and I'm not making a big income. I mean, why would I even start this now? Can you address that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the less you have and the older you are, the more that these principles you need to apply. And you can do a lot more in 10, 15, or 20 years than you think you can if you do it the right way. There are so many stories out there. More money is not always the answer. There's lots of people. There's professional athletes and, movie stars and people that are CEOs and doctors and lawyers and so on that I've been acquainted with, talked to, know their story. Lots of money coming in, but they didn't apply the principles that work for everybody and they're broke. And then I know other people that have made 30, 35, 40, 50, $60,000 a year is the most they ever made in their entire life as a family. And they don't have any debt and they're debt free. And they have wiggle room and they have freedom and they don't have the stress. And so these principles apply to people at all ages, and it's never too late. There's never a bad time to improve your money. You can do a lot with a little. It's a lot of little steps, eating the elephant, one bite at a time. And all of a sudden, those things begin to add up. And it's not just finding the money as in not wasting, but it's also, I've got a lot of ideas in these videos about how to find the money and how to be creative in other ways to have income coming in. These principles work. It's never too late, but you've got to be willing to pay the price. It doesn't come cheap.
Right. Now I've watched all the videos, and I know that you're living in, for those of us here in Canada, you're living in the United States, and some of those things, there's some differences between the US and Canada, but you're dealing with kind of straightforward foundational principles that can apply to everybody.
This is not an investing video series. This is how to manage your day-to-day money. It works in New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island where I've lived, and it works here in Nashville, Tennessee where I've lived. And because I knew these videos would be sent to a lot of friends and folks up in the Atlantic district and Atlantic provinces, I tried to make sure that I didn't put too much U.S. slant to it, that I also mentioned the things in Canada. And yes, so they will hear maybe one or two or three things that referenced here to the U.S., but then the people in the U.S. are going to hear references to people in Canada. I mean, that wouldn't even be 1/100th of the total time period in the videos. The videos work literally all over this planet if
Yeah.
people will apply them.
Right.
And it's not deep theory. It's not meant to be difficult. It's meant to be extremely simple.
Mm.
But just because it's simple doesn't mean that it's easy.
Right. Right. So, can you tell us how many videos, how long they are, and what do you hope people will do with this information?
Great question. So I tried to keep them between 20 and 25 minutes. So I think that, 23, 24 minutes, very simple. Sit down in your easy chair, sit down somewhere, get a cup of coffee and just watch. I would recommend that you get a notepad out and a pen. And I hope that if it's a couple or a family, they will watch them together. It really, between the three videos, it's 1 hour of your life. 1 hour of your life jam packed with all kinds of how to's. Everything is about take this step, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. So it's not, again, deep theory. You don't have to be good at finances. You don't have to understand financial principles. These are just life skills that unfortunately they're not taught in schools or to the average families. And you write down those principles. And then what I recommend doing is when you're finished watching the videos, if it's a couple or if it's a single person, you get together and you say, okay, of all these things that I wrote, and literally I think there should be 30 to 40 different things that I've mentioned there that you could consider. What are the one, two, or three things right now that we can apply that can make a difference that we should start there?
Um, and these videos are free. You have made
These
these.
videos are free. Listen,
Mm,
there is no agenda here by Pete Benson. I'm not trying to gain anybody as a client. In fact, I can tell you I can't take any more clients on.
mm, mhm.
I don't want any clients. I'm not trying to make any money. This cost me some time and effort, but I'm happy to invest. A lot of people invested me in life. I'm blessed way beyond my wildest dreams. Now it's more, God, what do you want me to be? What kind of funnel do you want me to be to
Mm.
bless other people and things? And one of the things that I realized is that through what I experienced, I learned a lot of financial things that maybe some days I kind of take for granted, but most people have never gotten there yet. And if one or two or three or 10 or 100 families get help from this, then that's my reward.
Well, I love your heart, Pete, and your heart for God's people and trying to help where you can. And we just really want to thank you for your generosity and offering this to us. We're going to make this available to our pastors and congregations through some links that we'll provide for them so they can
Right.
access them and download them and use them any way they want in the church
Right.
and for their own personal lives. So this is fantastic. So Pete, thank you so much for joining me today for this video interview so we can share this with people. And just pray God's blessing on you and your lovely wife, Jenny. And we just always enjoy seeing you once or twice a year. And
Yes.
so glad we were able to do this today online. And God bless you. Have a wonderful summer ahead. Thanks for doing this for us. And we just are looking forward to the dividends that will be paid out in people's lives and for the kingdom of God. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, bless you and all your churches and families that you're connected to, Kevin, with your family. I hope they let us across the border one day when it's safe to do so, and we can get up there and see each other face to face again. But God bless. Thank you for your investment in the kingdom and everything that you do, and making this available to people. And I believe if they will take advantage of it, it will make a difference.
I agree. I agree. Thanks so much, Pete.
God bless.
God bless you.